His own parliamentary budget officer said that in the 4 provinces where the rebates exist, 60% of people pay more in carbon tax costs than they get back in rebates. And in 6 provinces out of 10, they don't get any rebate at all, even though the federal government will force those provinces to triple the tax after a vote by the costly coalition of the NDP and Liberals. How much will Eastern Canadian rural families be forced to pay in higher taxes on their home heating when this Prime Minister triples the carbon tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You know what Eastern Canadians are seeing right now, what they told me? They told me they're worried for the fact that there are going to be more intense storms in the coming years, that their kids and their grandkids are going to face a world in which extreme weather events are increasingly frequent, which will threaten not just their communities, not just their way of life, but their very future. The fact is, we need to continue to step up in the fight against climate change, something Conservative politicians don't seem to understand, and the model that we have of putting a price on pollution returns more money every year to families who need it. That's the model we have. That's how we're helping Canadians as we fight climate.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It isn't working. He hasn't hit a single solitary climate target since he brought in this tax. According to the Liberal Premier of Newfoundland, rural families will have seen an 80% increase in their home heating costs when the carbon tax kicks in there. 40% of Atlantic Canadians live in energy poverty. The Prime Minister can insult these people and call them polluters while he jets around in his private jet. Or he can recognize that heating your home in January in rural Newfoundland is a basic necessity. How much will he impose in extra costs on those families when he trickles?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians want to see a better future for their kids and for their grandkids. And that only happens if we continue to not just fight against climate change, but invest in the jobs and the transformation of our economies that is going to be needed to ensure good careers for them, good opportunities for those communities and families. That's what our plan to fight climate change does. The Conservative Party chooses to deny climate change exists and refuses to put forward a plan to fight climate change. That's not what Atlantic Canadians, or indeed any Canadians, need.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister does not have a climate plan. He has a tax plan. His climate promises have failed every single year. And now, with his tax hike on farmers, I asked him how much that farm family would have to pay. He didn't have an answer. Well, here's the answer. That family will pay more, which means more of the food production will be sent other ways to other countries where they have lower environmental standards. That food will then have to be shipped, trained, and trucked back to Canada at higher pollution, and we will be more dependent on foreign farmers. Why is it this Prime Minister wants to drive pollution up, farm production out, and jobs down?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I could just as well ask why the Leader of the Opposition wants to make pollution free again. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, that farm families, like all families across the country, are worried about their kids and their kids' future. They're worried about the land that sustains us and this extraordinary country that provides us all so much. That's why we need to be better stewards of the land altogether, which is why we're moving forward with a strong plan to fight climate change that includes supports for farm families, supports for agricultural industry, as we reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, as we create good jobs and a good future for all Canadians.